Throughout history, some conquerors built kingdoms, others destroyed them, but one man did both. From the vast steppes of Central Asia, he rose from obscurity to become one of the most feared rulers the world had ever known. His armies crossed deserts, mountains, and frozen plains. They defeated sultans, destroyed ancient cities, and brought powerful empires to their knees. In the West, he became known as Tamerlane. To his followers, he was Amir Timur. To his enemies, Timur the Lame. But history would remember him as something far greater, the Iron Conqueror, a military genius who built monuments of extraordinary beauty while leaving entire civilizations in ruins. This is the story of Timur. Timur was born into a world still living beneath the shadow of Genghis Khan. More than a century earlier, the Mongols had created the largest connected empire the world had ever seen. But after Genghis Khan's death, that enormous empire began to divide. His descendants fought over land, wealth, and power. The once united Mongol world broke into rival kingdoms. Central Asia became a battlefield of tribal chiefs, local princes, military commanders, and ambitious warlords. Alliances could disappear overnight. A trusted friend could become a mortal enemy before sunrise. In this world, a man survived not only through strength, but through patience, intelligence, and betrayal. It was the perfect world for someone like Timur to rise. Timur was born in the year 1336 near the city of Kesh, south of Samarkand. Today, the region lies within modern Uzbekistan. Timur belonged to the Barlas tribe. The Barlas had once been of Mongol origin, but over generations they had adopted the Turkic language, the traditions of Central Asia, and the religion of Islam. Timur's father, Taragai, was a respected member of the tribe, but he was not a king. He possessed no great empire, no enormous army, and no throne to leave his son. Timur was born without a crown. There was no kingdom waiting for him. Everything he would one day control, he would have to earn, seize, or conquer for himself. Much of Timur's youth remains surrounded by legend. Some stories describe him as a fearless horseman, a skilled archer, and the leader of a small group of warriors. Others claim that he survived by raiding livestock and attacking caravans. The complete truth may never be known. But during his early struggles, Timur suffered serious injuries. One wound damaged his leg, another affected his hand. From that moment, he walked with a permanent limp. His enemies began calling him Timur Ailang, Timur the Lame. European writers later transformed that name into Tamerlane, but Timur refused to let his injuries define him. He could still ride, he could still fight, and most importantly, he could still command men. Timur's greatest weapon was not his sword, it was his understanding of people. He knew how to inspire loyalty, he knew how to reward courage, and he knew how to turn fear into obedience. Timur could be patient when patience served him. He could be generous when generosity bought support. But when he believed terror was necessary, he could become merciless. He studied the ambitions of the men around him. He understood who could be trusted, who could be bribed, and who had to be destroyed. Warriors followed Timur because he offered them wealth, victory, and purpose. But they also followed him because they feared what would happen if they refused. Long before he ruled an empire, Timur had already learned how to rule men. During his early rise, Timur formed an alliance with another powerful leader, Amir Hussein. The two men shared common enemies. They fought together, gathered soldiers, and attempted to take control of Transoxiana. For a time, their partnership made them stronger, but victory slowly changed their relationship. Timur became increasingly respected by the soldiers. He preferred fast cavalry, surprise attacks, and the mobile traditions of steppe warfare. Amir Hussein relied more heavily on fortified cities and defensive positions. Their methods were different, and so were their ambitions. Both men wanted power. Neither intended to remain second. Suspicion replaced trust. The allies became rivals, and Timur began preparing to remove the last man standing between him and complete control. In 1370, Timur made his move. He marched against Amir Hussein and surrounded him at the city of Balkh. Hussein was defeated. Soon afterward, he was killed. Timur was now the most powerful man in Transoxiana. But military victory was not enough. Timur still needed to make his rule appear legitimate. According to Mongol tradition, only a direct male descendant of Genghis Khan could officially carry the title of Khan. Timur possessed no such bloodline. He could defeat kings. He could command armies. But he could not simply declare himself the rightful Khan. So he chose a more intelligent path. He allowed descendants of Genghis Khan to sit upon the throne. They carried the title. But Timur controlled the army, the government, and the empire. Timur adopted the title Amir, commander. He strengthened his position by marrying Sarai Mulk Khanum, a princess descended from Genghis Khan. Through this marriage, Timur gained the prestigious title Guragan, the royal son-in-law. It was a brilliant political solution. Timur respected the old Mongol traditions while quietly controlling them. The symbolic Khan could sit upon the throne. But every soldier, governor, and ambassador understood the truth. The crown belonged to another man. The power belonged only to Timur. From his capital at Samarkand, he began imagining something greater than a regional kingdom. He wanted to reunite the lands of the Mongol world. What he could not inherit through blood, he would take through conquest. Timur created one of the most effective armies of the medieval world. Its greatest weapon was speed. His cavalry could travel extraordinary distances in very little time. They could strike from an unexpected direction, disappear into the steppe, and gather again hundreds of miles away. Timur studied every battlefield carefully. He examined roads, rivers, mountain passes, and water supplies. He gathered information about enemy armies, city walls, food stores, and political rivalries. Before invading a kingdom, he often contacted the enemies of its ruler. He encouraged rebellions, he bribed commanders. He promised rewards to anyone willing to change sides. By the time Timur arrived, his enemies were often already divided, and a divided enemy was much easier to destroy. Timur's first major target was Khwarazm. The region controlled important cities, fertile land, and valuable trade routes. It also stood between Timur and the western lands he hoped to conquer. Timur invaded repeatedly. Each campaign weakened the rulers of Khwarazm. Cities surrendered, rebelled, and were conquered again. Timur showed patience when submission benefited him, but repeated resistance brought increasingly severe punishment. By the end of the struggle, Khwarazm had been brought under his control. Its military strength was broken. Its wealth was redirected towards Samarkand. The victory opened the road west. Timur was no longer a regional warlord. He was becoming the ruler of a rapidly expanding empire, and his next target would be far larger: Persia. Timur turned his armies toward Persia. The region was wealthy, ancient, and politically divided. Local dynasties controlled different cities and provinces. Some rulers surrendered and were allowed to remain in power. Others attempted to resist. Timur's armies captured Herat, Khorasan, Mazandaran, Azerbaijan, and large parts of the Iranian world. His conquests followed a familiar pattern. Submission could bring survival. Resistance brought destruction. Timur was not interested only in capturing land. He wanted wealth, soldiers, craftsmen, and political control. Every conquered city strengthened his army. Every defeated ruler increased his reputation, and every victory sent the same message across Asia. A new conqueror had risen from Central Asia, and no city could afford to ignore his approach. In 1387, Timur entered the great Persian city of Isfahan. The city initially surrendered. Its people agreed to pay tribute, and Timur placed soldiers inside its walls. But soon afterward, an uprising began. Citizens attacked and killed members of Timur's army. When the news reached him, his response was devastating. Timur ordered a massive punishment. Thousands were killed. Medieval chroniclers describe towers constructed from the heads of the dead. The exact numbers may never be known. But the purpose was unmistakable. Timur wanted the story to travel. He wanted every city standing in his path to understand what resistance could cost. The massacre at Isfahan was not only revenge, It was psychological warfare. Fear would now travel ahead of Timur's army. Timur understood that destroying one city could make 10 others surrender. His violence was often calculated. He wanted his enemies to believe that resistance was hopeless. Cities that opened their gates could sometimes be spared. Those that fought back risked complete destruction. The strategy worked. News of Timur's punishment spread across trade routes and royal courts. Some governors surrendered before his army arrived. Others fled, leaving their cities without leadership. Timur's reputation became another weapon. His soldiers carried swords, bows, and lances. But Timur carried something even more powerful, a name that created fear before the first arrow was fired. Yet behind this terror stood a ruler with a different dream. While cities across Asia burned, Timur was transforming Samarkand into the jewel of his empire. One of Timur's greatest enemies began as his ally. Toktamish was a young prince of the Golden Horde. He had been driven from his lands by powerful rivals. Timur gave him refuge. He provided soldiers, weapons, and support. With Timur's help, Toktamish defeated his enemies and became ruler of the Golden Horde. For a time, the alliance benefited them both. But Toktamish wanted more. Once secure on his throne, he began expanding into territories claimed by Timur. He attacked Azerbaijan and challenged Timur's growing authority. To Timur, this was not simply a political threat. It was betrayal. He had helped Toktamish become a ruler. Now that same ruler was turning against him. The friendship was over, and Timur prepared to punish the man he had once protected. Timur marched north into the vast territories of the Golden Horde. The campaign carried his army across enormous distances, through open grasslands, dry plains, and unfamiliar country. In 1391, the two forces met near the Kundurcha River. The battle was enormous. Thousands of horsemen charged across the steppe. Arrows darkened the sky. Dust swallowed the battlefield. Timur's discipline and tactical control gave him the advantage. Toktamish was defeated, but he escaped, and the war was not yet over. Toktamish rebuilt his forces and attempted to challenge Timur again. Timur would not allow his former ally a second chance. He prepared another invasion. This time he did not intend only to defeat Toktamish. He intended to destroy the power of the Golden Horde itself. In 1395, Timur and Toktamish met again near the Terek River. The battle ended in another devastating defeat for the Golden Horde. Toktamish fled, but Timur continued forward. His army entered the heart of the Golden Horde and attacked its greatest cities. Sarai was devastated. Astrakhan was attacked. Trade centers were destroyed. Caravan routes were disrupted. Timur did not permanently occupy the northern steppe, but he shattered the economic and political power of his enemy. The Golden Horde survived, but it would never fully recover its former strength. Timur's campaign changed the balance of power across Eurasia. New states would rise, old trade routes would weaken, and the history of Russia and the Western steppe would be shaped by the destruction Timur left behind. While enemy cities were reduced to ruins, Samarkand became more magnificent with every victory. Timur wanted his capital to be the greatest city in the world. From conquered lands, he brought architects, stonecutters, painters, metalworkers, calligraphers, and craftsmen. Many came against their will. They carried the artistic traditions of Persia, India, Syria, and Central Asia into Timur's capital. Enormous mosques rose above crowded markets. Palaces were surrounded by gardens. Blue domes and monumental gateways dominated the skyline. Foreign visitors were meant to feel overwhelmed. The beauty of Samarkand displayed Timur's power. But that beauty came at a price. Its wealth had been taken from conquered kingdoms. Its monuments were built from the talent of displaced people. Samarkand's glory was born from the destruction of other cities. By 1398, Timur was already more than 60 years old. Most rulers would have begun preparing for retirement. Timur prepared for another invasion. His target was India. The Delhi Sultanate was politically weakened. Its rulers faced rebellions, internal conflict, and challenges from local governors. but Delhi remained one of the richest cities in the world. Timur described the campaign as a religious war, but wealth, prestige, and ambition also drove the invasion. His army crossed the Indus River and moved deeper into northern India. Cities standing in its path were attacked. Fortresses were captured. Thousands of prisoners were taken. As Timur advanced, the road behind him filled with smoke, ruins, and terrified survivors. Ahead stood Delhi, and an army unlike any Timur's horsemen had faced before. The army of Delhi possessed a terrifying weapon: armored war elephants. These enormous animals could break formations, crush soldiers, and frighten cavalry horses into chaos. Timur understood the danger. Before the battle, he prepared defensive positions and ordered his troops to use fire against the elephants. According to historical accounts, burning material and flaming obstacles terrified the animals. Some elephants turned back toward their own lines. The army of Delhi fell into confusion. Timur seized the moment. His mounted archers attacked. His cavalry moved around the enemy's flanks. The Sultanate's formations began to collapse. By the end of the battle, Timur had achieved another decisive victory. The road to Delhi was now open, but the city's greatest tragedy was only beginning. Timur entered Delhi as a conqueror. At first he attempted to maintain control, but violence soon spread through the city. Fighting broke out. Timur's soldiers began a massive campaign of killing, looting, and enslavement. Homes were destroyed, markets were emptied, temples and buildings were attacked. Thousands of civilians lost their lives. One of the richest cities of the medieval world was left devastated. Timur had no intention of remaining in India to build a permanent government. He had come for victory, wealth, and glory. His army returned to Central Asia carrying enormous quantities of gold, jewels, animals, and captured craftsmen. Once again, the treasures of a ruined city would help build the monuments of Samarkand. After India, Timur turned west. His armies moved into the Middle East, where powerful kingdoms still resisted his authority. Baghdad, Aleppo, and Damascus stood along his path. In 1400, Timur invaded Syria. The city of Aleppo fell after fierce fighting. Its defenders were defeated, its streets filled with destruction. From Aleppo, Timur advanced toward Damascus. The city was one of the great centers of the Islamic world. Its markets were wealthy, its mosques were famous, its craftsmen were admired across the region. But Damascus stood between Timur and complete dominance of the Middle East. As his army approached, fear spread inside the city walls. The people of Damascus knew what had happened to cities that resisted him, and they knew that Timur was already at their gates. During the siege of Damascus, Timur met one of the greatest thinkers of the medieval world, Ibn Khaldun. The famous historian had spent years studying why kingdoms rise, become powerful, and eventually collapse. Now he stood before a man who had personally destroyed and rebuilt the political world of Eurasia. The two men discussed history, geography, kingship, and empire. Ibn Khaldun recognized Timur's intelligence, curiosity, and extraordinary ambition. But their conversations could not save Damascus. The city was eventually looted. Sections were burned. Skilled craftsmen were transported to Samarkand. The meeting between Timur and Ibn Khaldun became one of history's most remarkable encounters. A man who studied empires had come face to face with a man who shattered them. To the west, another powerful ruler was building an empire. Sultan Bayezid I. Known as Yildirim the Thunderbolt, Bayezid had expanded the Ottoman state across Anatolia and the Balkans. He had defeated a European crusading army at Nicopolis. He had conquered several Turkish principalities and brought their lands under Ottoman control. Bayezid was fast, ambitious, and confident. In many ways, he resembled Timur. Both men believed they had been chosen to rule. Both had defeated nearly every enemy placed before them, and neither man accepted equals. The rulers of Anatolian principalities defeated by Bayezid fled to Timur. Enemies of Timur found protection at Bayezid's court. Slowly, the two greatest conquerors of their age were drawn toward war. Before their armies met, Timur and Bayezid fought with letters. Each ruler demanded that the other surrender political refugees. Each accused the other of arrogance and illegitimate conquest. The language became increasingly hostile. Insults were exchanged. Threats followed. Bayezid believed the Ottomans could defeat the armies of Central Asia. Timur believed no ruler alive could stand against him. Neither man was willing to step back. But Timur did not rush. He gathered information about Anatolia. He contacted Bayezid's enemies. He spoke with the former rulers of the Turkish principalities, and he prepared the battlefield long before the armies actually arrived. By 1402, diplomacy had failed. The two conquerors were moving toward Ankara. Only one of them would leave the battlefield with an empire intact. Timur entered Anatolia with an enormous army. Instead of attacking Bayezid directly, he used movement to exhaust him. Bayezid marched east to confront Timur, but Timur moved around him, forcing the Ottoman army to change direction and march back through the summer heat. The soldiers grew tired, supplies became limited, water became precious. Timur reached the plain near Ankara before Bayezid. He controlled important water sources and chose the ground where the battle would take place. When the Ottoman army arrived, its soldiers were exhausted. Timur's men were prepared. It was exactly the kind of advantage Timur had created throughout his career. The battle had not yet begun, but Bayezid was already trapped inside Timur's strategy. On July 28, 1402, the two armies met on the plain of Chubuk near Ankara. Timur's army included experienced cavalry, mounted archers, infantry, and war elephants brought from India. Bayezid's forces included Janissaries, Ottoman cavalry, Serbian heavy horsemen, and soldiers from recently conquered Anatolian principalities. The battle began with arrows, cavalry attacks, and violent clashes across the plain. Then Bayezid's greatest weakness was revealed. Some Anatolian troops abandoned him. Others changed sides after seeing their former rulers standing with Timur. The Ottoman center continued to fight. The Janissaries resisted. The Serbian cavalry charged fiercely, but Timur's army slowly surrounded them. Bayezid's exhausted forces could no longer escape. The thunderbolt had been caught. Bayezid continued fighting even as his army collapsed around him. But by the end of the battle, the Ottoman Sultan was captured. One of the most powerful rulers in the world was now Timur's prisoner. Later stories claim that Timur locked Bayezid inside an iron cage, but historians continue to debate whether this truly happened. What is certain is that Bayezid remained in captivity. He died the following year. The Ottoman state fell into chaos. Bayezid's sons fought one another for the throne. The empire entered a civil war known as the Interregnum. Timur restored several Anatolian principalities that Bayezid had conquered, but he did not remain to rule Anatolia. His goal was complete. He had defeated the only ruler who had openly challenged his supremacy. The victory at Ankara made Timur famous across Europe. Kings who had feared the expanding Ottoman Empire now viewed Timur as a possible ally. European ambassadors traveled to his court in Samarkand. One of them, Ruy González de Clavijo, described a city filled with palaces, gardens, markets, craftsmen, and visitors from distant lands. At the center of this enormous world stood Timur. He had defeated the Golden Horde. He had conquered Persia. He had destroyed Delhi. He had taken Damascus. And he had captured the Ottoman Sultan. Few rulers in history had achieved so many victories across such different lands. But Timur was still not satisfied. At nearly 70 years old, he began preparing for the greatest campaign of his life, the conquest of China. In late 1404, Timur gathered an enormous army for the invasion of Ming China. Soldiers, horses, weapons, and supplies were prepared. The army began moving east during a brutal winter. But Timur would never reach the Chinese frontier. While staying near Otrar, he became seriously ill. The man who had survived arrows, swords, rebellions, and countless battles was now weakened by age, disease, and the cold. In February 1405, Timur died. The Chinese campaign ended before it truly began. His body was carried back to Samarkand. There, the conqueror who had shaken the world was buried inside the Gure Amir mausoleum. Timur had defeated nearly every enemy placed before him, but he could not defeat time. After Timur's death, his descendants fought over the empire. The vast territories he had united began to divide. Timur had built a powerful war machine, but he had not created a stable system that could survive without him. Yet his legacy did not disappear. His descendants transformed Herat and Samarkand into centers of art, science, and literature. His grandson, Uluj Beg, became one of the greatest astronomers of the medieval world. Another descendant, Babur, would later conquer northern India and establish the Mughal Empire. But Timur's legacy remains divided. Was he a military genius, a patron of culture, or a ruthless conqueror who destroyed entire cities? Perhaps he was all of them. A man who built beauty from destruction, a ruler who conquered kingdoms but could not create an empire strong enough to survive his death. More than 6 centuries later, the world still remembers his name, Timur, the Iron Conqueror of Central Asia.